Hello everyone, and welcome to Victoria's Action Figure Cantina. Today we're having a look at the Hasbro Star Wars 2013 Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Starfighters, as seen in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Here's a look at the packaging. So since these two vehicles are exactly the same, I thought we would have a look at both of them in one review. I bought them right when they first came out I believe it was July of last summer sometime. I did open them and look at them a little bit, but I've only now gotten around to going over them in better detail. So just wanted to show you guys what these things are like if you haven't already seen them. So let's start things off with Anakin's fighter. So as you probably know, this is a downsized version of the Jedi Starfighter from Episode 3 that Hasbro had been coming out with for many years. Starting with the very first sneak preview Starfighter from Revenge of the Sith, which was based on Anakin's Starfighter in that movie. While I absolutely love the older Starfighter and can tell you that it's absolutely one of my favorite ships that I own from the Star Wars movies, I can tell you that that ship was always a little bit too big compared to what it should have actually been. So it made me happy that Hasbro went back to the drawing board to do something, even if their intent was for a lower price point. It pleases me that they went back to do something a little bit smaller in any case. As you can see, it's pretty proportionate within itself. If anything, the cockpit may still be a little bit undersized, but I really think it looks pretty good. Here's a view of the top side for you, and the bottom side. So these Starfighters are very lightweight. It's probably no more than maybe 5 ounces or so, which is quite a bit of a difference compared to the older Starfighter. It feels very much like a typical plastic. It doesn't feel quite as heavy duty as the older ones, perhaps, but I'm sure it's still fairly heavy duty as it is. And as you can see, this is squeaky clean. There are no signs of battle damage. I suppose if you want to consider these mold marks here battle damage, you can, but they really didn't do anything to give the impression that this thing has been through battle. So I guess you can consider that maybe this is a ship that Anakin had when it was brand new, rather than the way it looked in Revenge of the Sith after many battles. Now, it would have been nice if Hasbro would have included perhaps some stickers like they did with many of the older Starfighters, but they didn't, so it is what it is. But I think at the bare minimum, that wouldn't have been too much to ask for. So unlike the older Jedi Starfighters that had the wings that popped out, these newer ones simply have these little places where you put your nail, and you kind of just pull on them like that. Same for the bottom, right there. You see the little tab. Just kind of pull it. If you don't have nails, I guess you just use your finger. It's not too difficult either. The top's a little harder to get out, though. Whoop. They move into both of these wings. Flaps do move independently of each other, but they also kind of tend to have to move at the same time if you allow them to. So there you go. The vehicle is now in attack mode. Now, to latch the wings back in place, you'll see the little holes right there. Basically just push them shut. There's not really a snapping sound, at least not much of one. They basically just kind of secure in place a little bit. And they seem to stay in place for the most part. In the box, they came with some rubber bands around them, presumably to keep them in place. Alright, so I know this is a gripe that many people have about this ship. R2 is way too small. And he really is, I guess, proportionately with the Starfighter. Maybe he's about right, maybe he's still a little, I think he's still a little too small. But, I'll give you an example here. You compare him to, I have an astronomic droid here for you. This is Mace Windu's droid. Don't know what the number is on this one as it's probably some random R2 or R4 type number, but I just call her Violet. She's way too big. His head's about the size of Violet's foot, as you can see. So yeah, and then the dome. Yeah, it's almost like a baby R2 unit type thing. So the vehicle comes with these two missiles that you put into the ship and then press the button to launch. And to get them in there, essentially all you do is you take the front of the starship, you see the hole, insert it in until you hear the click, and then you'll see the little button right there. Just aim it in whichever direction you wish to shoot it, and simply press. They shoot about a good 5 to 6 feet, so they have a pretty good range. Alright, now, I just grabbed a random Anakin to try to fit in there. So we have the 2008 Anniversary Collection Anakin figure. To get him into the cockpit, you want to grab your Starfighter. At the very front, you'll see these little tabs right there. It's really hard to open it by just using one finger, like so. What you want to do is grab it to where you get both fingers in there, and it very easily opens up. And there's the inside of the cockpit right there. Not a lot of detail, but you know, it'll suffice. Now you'll probably want to have a soft goods skirted Anakin to get in here, unless you have the new Saga Legends one, which I don't have yet. So we're going to use this guy. And so you can see it's not the best fit. He's still a little bit too big, but you know, he's in, and we can close the cockpit to get him in there. So it works. He's a little too big to sit in there comfortably, but you know, at least it closes with him in there. Alright, now let's have a look at Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter. It's the exact same thing, just in Obi-Wan's color scheme. Basically, this is what you get. Just like Anakin's, it's squeaky clean, no signs of any kind of battle damage. The silver on Obi-Wan's fighter is more of a, it's more of like a lighter colored silver compared to Anakin's, which is more of a dark gray, as you can see. It looks nice. I always liked this maroon and silver color scheme. There's the back side there for you. Again, it would have been nice if they would have included at least some stickers, you know, at the bare minimum. That way we could kind of, you know, at least make it look a little more battle-worn. But, you know, they didn't. And there's your miniature astromech droid, R4P17. And a couple more angles there for you. Bottom side. I know you love the launching missiles, so I'll launch them again for you. And to get Obi-Wan Kenobi in there, just like with Anakin's fighter, place your fingers there and just kind of pull it. It opens very easily with 2 fingers. Inside of the cockpit is essentially the same thing as Anakin's, meaning there's not much to see. And for our purposes today, it made sense to grab the vintage pilot Obi-Wan, which is a repack of the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan, except for the soft goods cape, which is different. I think they started giving him that back in the Saga collection. But in any case, since he's supposed to be pilot Obi-Wan, I thought he'd be a good guy to put in there. So we open up the cockpit. Whoop, his helmet mask thing, whatever you call it, fell off. And we just push on their headset. There you go. And let's see if we can get his headset back on him. Because, I mean, it makes sense for him to wear it after all. You know, it's funny how they never packed an Anakin figure from the movies with that headset. Other than the Clone Wars one, which doesn't really count. And there you go. It closes with him in there, no problem. Oh, another thing I like to do, and this is just completely, you know, one of my little personal things, is I like to put a lightsaber in there, whatever lightsaber the character came with. So let's see if we could fit it. Just in case. You never know when you might need your lightsaber. Alright, so size comparison time for you. There's Mace Windu's Jedi Starfighter back from the Saga collection. As you can see, it's a lot bigger than the new Jedi Starfighter mold. It's a lot bigger and quite a bit heavier. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. These are the Hasbro Star Wars Jedi Starfighters based on Revenge of the Sith. Now, I like that they're scaled more properly to the film, and as you can see, the figures standing next to the ships, they look good. The size of the figures in comparison to the ships is good. The droids are too small, way too small. I like that they're compact and, they're easy to put in storage and just kind of, put away in a plastic bin in the closet, but they're just not as fun as the original Starfighters, even though those were a little bit too big, a little too bulky. To me, those were just fun with the opening wings, the landing gear, the fact that you could pull out the astromech droid and replace it with a proper droid, even though it sat a little too high. And then, the more comfortable cockpit. I think I still prefer the original Starfighter. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that Hasbro, made a smaller version, because that's always been my biggest gripe with the original Starfighters. These could have been way more than they are. At the bare minimum, they could have thrown in some decals, that way we could give some battle damage to these squeaky clean Starfighters. But I suppose that just wasn't meant to be. As such, if you have the older Jedi Starfighters and you don't need to have absolutely everything Hasbro comes out with, the original ships are definitely more interesting. But for what these are, I like them. I'll admit, I like them. Thanks for watching Victoria's Cantina. Until next time, bye-bye.